guys, and welcome to my review of the Logitech G300 that I purchased about 2 months ago, and I thought, well, I gotta use it for a bit before I review it. There's a lot of reviews out there that are connected to unboxing videos, and I don't think anyone should review something unless they use it for X amount of time. I had this mouse quite a while back now, and I'm really getting used to it. It's not too bad. I'll go through the details with you. I'll go for the software very briefly, though. This is not going to be an in-depth review at all. And I'll also pick up the competitors and show you two various other mouses that are in the similar price range, of course, and do similar things. So first of all is the Logitech G300 review, brought to you by Juicy. Okay, so as you can see, there's a picture of the mouse right there, and there's the picture of the box. Very fancy box that's got like an X-ray picture of the mouse, of course, but we don't care about the box. There's too many unboxing videos where people talk about the box rather than the product, so let's move on. Okay, so there's some more screenshots here of the mouse. There's no point me actually doing a video of the mouse at all. You know, it's a mouse with buttons on it, so I might as well just go through the things that are listed on their Logitech website and tell you my opinions based on them. So you've got 9 programmable controls. I assume the controls mean buttons. Okay, so yeah, it's correct. You've got the 9 buttons. You've got the 2 standard buttons that you get with any mouse. You've got the scroll wheel. You've got the clicking on scroll wheel. You've got the DPI button, and you've got one just underneath it. And on each left and right mouse click, you've got 2 adjacent buttons. So you've got 3 buttons that are not too far away from either finger. Anyway, there's no thumb buttons on the G300, unfortunately, but there's no real reason to have that as a con, I guess. But I'll explain more about that in just a moment. Sculpted for ambitious people, no, ambidextrous people. Ambitious people, yeah. So it's sculpted for people who are left and right-handed, which is pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of Generic B, and he's always going on about mice, and he runs into numerous problems, and I feel that mice should be more capable to be handled by left and right-handed people, or people who can do both. Okay, so it's got a user configurable lighting. I don't really give a shit about the lighting, of course, but there is a button on here which allows you to scroll through various lighting effects on the mouse, including yellow and red and blue and a grey, and I think there's white, and I think there's purple, and yeah, you can change the colour on the mouse just by the click. And that's the button just under the DPI button, which I'll show you in just a little bit more. It's got onboard memory profiles, and this allows you to have the mouse configured for different software and games, depending on what game you play, depends on what type of profile you use, and you can configure it to automatically detect the game and for the actual buttons to reconfigure based on your custom profile, which is not too bad. But once I have a mouse set up myself personally the way I like it, I just leave it like that anyway. But if you're a hardcore FPS player, for example, and you like to play World of Warcraft, I guess having those profiles available to you is kind of essential if you're a hardcore game player in 2 hugely different genres. Or even software, for example, like Photoshop, and then you go into some other software, of course, you're going to want those buttons to switch over, maybe, but I don't. I use a mouse how it comes, but I like to have things accessible in games without worrying about profiles and stuff, because you can configure in games, which leads on to a con, which I'll explain later on. Okay, so you've got on-the-fly DPI switching, pretty awesome. You can actually configure the DPI to however you want, and you can have up to 4 DPI configurations on the mouse. You just flip the button and it'll switch it quite fast, straight away, depending on DPI is like mouse speed on screen, really, but there's a bit more behind that, which I'm not going to go into. Okay, so the report rate is 1 millisecond, which apparently is pretty amazing. I'm not a professional FPS player, but I know that's pretty cool. Okay, so it says durable build. Looking at the mouse, it's pretty much made out of plastic. It could be shaped in any way, shape or form. Because it's shaped like this doesn't make it durable. It's still plastic, just like the cheap mice. So I wouldn't call it durable. I would call it a piece of plastic or multiple pieces of plastic that are shaped like this, but they call it durable, even though cheaper mice can be made out of the same thing. That makes no sense to me. Okay, it says slick feet, and I'm assuming it's talking about the black pads underneath the mouse. If I turn my mouse over right now, which is in my hand, they actually do feel slick, so there we go. But I'm assuming most mice do have a soft, slick surface underneath for it to move around on the mouse pad. I don't know why you would have non-slick feet for a mouse. So that's kind of weird to put in there. Okay, easy to use configurable software. Okay, so this leads on to the next slide, so let's move on. Easy to configurable is quite a crap word to describe the software. It took me a while to get used to the software, especially configuring the DPI section, the DPI stuff, to the speed of the mouse or the sensitivity of the mouse myself. It's just really hard to understand just by looking at it, to be quite frank. As you can see, the pointer settings on this slide right back here, and you've got 4 points on the scale, the lowest one being the slowest speed, the highest one being the fastest speed, and you can move the 4 points and have 4 configurable points of your own taste there. But what throws me off is that you've got about 4 or 5 different profiles that you can flick through on the mouse just by using the button underneath the DPI. So you have to configure the DPI and the buttons based on the color scheme that the mouse is actually showing. So you can have one profile based on the light blue, and then the red, when you flick it to a red, the light goes red, it changes the profile again to something else. And it's not hard to understand, but I think the interface for the software could have been improved a lot more. As you can see, for the actual the image there for the mouse, it's got some of the keys labeled out. So it's got right click, middle click, it's got something called forward button, whatever that means. That's just like mouse 5 really, and stuff like that. And you have to click on the down arrow and configure it to what you want it to be. Okay, so this leads on to something I don't like about the mouse, is the fact that when you're playing a game like Battlefield 4, for example, and you go into the configs and you want to put, say, for example, on the mouse now, if you look at it, it says paste, which is Control and V on the mouse on the right bottom key. You cannot configure that key in Battlefield 4, nor can you configure the key above it, which is copy, and like set grenade or melee to it. It will not recognize it. The only buttons it recognizes in Battlefield 4 is the standard 1 and 2, mouse scroll, middle click on the mouse scroll, and the additional left buttons, 2 buttons. It does not understand the ones on the right. I've pulled my hair out over this, but the fix to do it is to go into the mouse software, select the button you want to edit, and then press the button on the keyboard to assign it to that. You can't go into the software in Battlefield 4 and then click on it and it'll say, please press the button you want to assign to this key, and press the button on the mouse. It will not do it. It will not detect those buttons, so you have to do it in the software externally, which infuriates me a little bit because I don't really care much about the software. I understand it needs a driver for it to run, and I just want to go into my game and configure it in the game. That way I don't have to worry about having multiple profiles. I just know when I launch the game, from the previous time I played it, the buttons are saved and configured how I've done it in game, not with the gaming software. So that's a bit of a kick in the butt. It's not too hard to work out though. It's, once you get it set, it's set, so it was okay. But yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the butt doing that in Battlefield 4. And yeah, so I fixed that now. So that's the only con I've got really about it. Okay, let's move on to competition, and then I'll do my overall sort of review and final on that. And the competition for the actual Logitech G300, in my research, is the SteelSeries Zia, I think is pronounced that, and the other one is the Senai, which very similar price mice. They don't actually have as many buttons as the G300. Both those SteelSeries mice are very similar design to stereotypical mice, of course. As you can see, the G300 has, you can tell it's a mouse straight away, but it has its own unique appeal, button layout and shape. As you can see, the G300, excuse me, it has a higher arch on it, allowing you to claw your hands around those top buttons and buttons at the side a little bit more easier. The SteelSeries, of course, very stereotypical mouse design, but it does have the thumb buttons on there, of course, and the DPI button. That's it. So there's a huge cut in the amount of buttons you can actually use on the SteelSeries. SteelSeries is a little bit more highly priced than the Logitech G300. There is a Logitech G200 too, which is the predecessor of this mouse. And it's very similar design, but this G300 has an optimized design. Okay, excuse me, I had a cough then, I was talking for so long. And the other thing about the SteelSeries is the profiles. You can't actually change the profiles and know what profile you're in. I know the Senai has a light in it too, which you can change the color of the light. That may actually be something to do with the profiles in it. But I think the Logitech G300, with its own software, does have a lot more appeal and customization for you. And it's more broader depending on what type of game you actually use, or software in that matter. You can actually use this gaming mouse for actual business work. It doesn't mean that you have to use it for gaming, but it does have a lot more accessibility in comparison to the SteelSeries. As you can see right there, that's a picture of their... the Senai. I don't actually have a picture of the Zia, but you can just put that into Google and find it. Okay, so I'm just going to do my rundown on the mouse now and explain to you what I wish the mouse had and let you know if I'm actually happy with the mouse as it is. Okay, so I bought the mouse in Tesco in the UK. It's just a retail store, really. It's a grocery store that also does electronics. It's quite a big chain. It's one of the biggest supermarkets in the UK too. It's actually bigger than Asda, and Asda actually partnered with Walmart in America, but Asda is still big as the British firm, and they're actually opening stores in Japan as well. Well, they've been doing it for a few years now, so they are actually a massive company. I purchased it for £35 or 38, something like that. It was actually a random purchase. I saw it in the shop. I knew I needed a new mouse. I bought it. I thought, hey, let's try this out. And I could take it back if I don't like it. And I am actually happy with it. As you can see, it's got a lot more grip on the side there for your thumb. Your thumb actually slides in there quite nicely. It's a shame there's no mouse buttons for your thumb, of course. But your fingers, your index finger and the one next to it, they use for your mouse 1 and mouse 2, do have access to those keys left and right of it. So you do actually have the additional 2 keys for your finger, which is on the right click. You could just slip your finger over nicely and click those. As you can see, the cord coming out of it though is plastic, and I have purchased mice off eBay for about £7 that have a fibre coating over the actual cable that comes from the mouse to your computer, and I do wish that something like that was implemented on this mouse. It feels very plasticky. It doesn't feel £35, and I know you can get mice for twice that much, £80, maybe 90 to 120 if you're going to go all out. But I do wish that there was some sort of fibre coating on here, maybe to give me the impression, or actually just to actually enhance the actual cable, the durability of the cable itself. I think the actual SteelSeries mouse actually has a fibre coating over the existing cable, so that's something that the SteelSeries does have more physically than the actual durability wise, I guess, more than the actual Logitech G300. Something else that I would personally like to improve about this mouse is that maybe you could actually put the thumb buttons on the design. Maybe in a future design, Logitech can look at this and go, right, we've got 9 buttons on this mouse. We can tally it up to 11 so easily just by putting something there for the thumb. Or even tally it up to 10 buttons just to put 1 button there for your thumb too. Something else is that if you grab your mouse and your thumb goes on the left side, this is me speaking right-handed now, and your pinky finger goes on the right side of the mouse, maybe there should be something there for your pinky. I mean, your finger falls naturally into a position, your pinky now, your little finger, naturally into a position where there could potentially be an easy access mouse button there. And I think that's something that's been overlooked by a lot of mouse developers actually, because I've never seen it before, but I'm always like, I've got a little bit of power in my pinky. I don't know whether that's because I play guitar or not, that I've got a bit more muscle or response in it, but I've got a bit of pressure on there, and if I push, I could technically push a button on there, which is quite nice. Okay, something else I want to go into is actually the mouse scroll. When you first buy it, you can feel the click as you roll it from one notch to another. After about 3 months of use, I can't really feel that click anymore. I could feel it ever so slightly when I scroll it, but not as much as it used to. And that goes to like FPS games when you're switching out weapons, of course. Sometimes I found myself to overswitch and not go to a weapon that I want to. Say for example in Battlefield 4 when I switch out to my pistol, which for me would be a standard 1 click down on the scroll. Sometimes I would bypass and go to a medikit when I'm trying to kill someone, like in the game. And it would go to a medikit and I would end up throwing a medikit to an opponent, which is kind of funny really. So that's the only thing, the durability of the mouse click in the scroll, or the ability to feel it as you're scrolling from one notch to another, if that makes absolutely any sense to you guys. Okay, and something else is that the mouse feels quite cheap, if you know what I mean. There's nothing, it doesn't feel like a hard piece of hardware. It feels like something I could have purchased for a third or even a quarter of the price. I don't actually feel the professionality in the build on here, unfortunately. So I think that's pretty much it. The software, you know, you're going to have to get used to in your own time too, but you don't actually have to use the software. You can use the mouse as plug and play. So I'm going to give this a score out of 10, I guess. I don't usually like giving things score out of 10 because I may change my mind, but say for now, I'm happy with the mouse. It does what it does. I've got it configured for FPS games. That's the pure reason why I bought it. Even though I had to use the software to remap the keyboard keys on it rather than doing it in-game, because in-game you can't do that. Maybe games are just not built to understand mice that have more than 4 keys. So maybe that's my own fault that I just didn't know that, and I have to do it in the settings anyway. But I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It's a good mouse. It does what I want it to. I've actually got it to do what I want it to do as well after a little bit of research and tinkering with the software. So I can't really knock that. It's not like it's not doing what I bought it to do. I finally got it to do what I bought it to do. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for that. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for the review, guys. Like I said, I didn't want to do an unboxing video and then review, because that means I'm reviewing something 10 minutes after I purchased it. Or not purchased it, but 10 minutes after I bought it. And that's not really a fair view, in my opinion. You have to trial test something before you do it. I did the same thing with my microphone also. And I've got new headphones too, which I will be reviewing in the near future also. And those are Philips Shaboyas. Anyway, guys, I want to say thanks for watching. Make sure you tune in next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm sorry it's been so long, but I do want to make sure that I do talk about some of the aspects of this mouse in some form of detail, so you do know my opinion on it if you ever did want to come across and purchase it yourself. I mean, money doesn't come often, especially if you're younger, so, you know, you do want to spend those you know, spend your pounds on something worth purchasing. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I shall be seeing you soon. So peace out.